Looking to start a podcast but don't know where to begin? Look no further. The team at Dodge Media Productions has 20 years of experience as podcast listeners and observing the industry and 8 years experience in podcast production. We can help you take your podcast from idea to fruition, and we'll make the process seamless and easy. We'll help you with everything from recording and editing to hitting the charts on Apple Podcasts. So what are you waiting for? Contact us today and let's get started. DodgeMediaProductions.com.
You're listening to Dodge Movie Podcast. Your hosts are Christy and Mike Dodge, the founders of Dodge Media Productions. We produce films and podcasts, so this is a podcast about films. Join them as they share their passion for filmmaking.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about a movie called Nonna's, I think it is, even though there's two N's in the middle. Not Nonna's, it's Nonna's. It's a movie that came out on Netflix, if memory serves, starring our buddy Vince Vaughn. Now, I would not have cast Vince Vaughn as an Italian, but it turns out his maternal grandfather was Italian. He also has a Lebanese in there, all kinds of stuff. Total mixing pot. Melting pot. Mm-hmm. Total melting pot. And I think the role is, he does a good job. I don't think it called for Vince Vaughn. And I wouldn't say it's classic, fast-talking Vince Vaughn. I think he's fine. It's just a role. Good to show that he has some range. IMDb listed as a dramedy, and I guess that's accurate. I would call it a comedy, but not like a laugh-out-loud every-minute kind of comedy. But it seems to me to be more lighthearted than dramatic.
It says comedy here on IMDb.
Yeah, I would not have called... I would not say that there are any teary-eyed moments in the film. It's a feel-good film. You like what happened. You pull for the characters. But I didn't consider it dramatic in my sense.
I mean, there are serious moments. I think this is definitely much more of a serious comedy for Vince than like a Wedding Crashers but probably more on the level, or maybe not even as dramatic as, is it The Breakup? What's the one with?
That's Jennifer Aniston with The Breakup. Yeah, it's based on a true story. Mm-hmm. And as I was reading, it is actually toned down. Often Hollywood gets the rap for making things seem more dramatic than they were. But I read an article that said, in the movie, it's portrayed that Vince's character's mother passed away, and that was the impetus for him to open this restaurant. But they said the real-life person, both grandparents and both parents died, as well as I think at least one cousin, in a very short span of time, which that amount of grief is crushing. So you could see somebody doing something really completely different at that point. That would make sense. I don't know if it made the movie less impactful with only losing his mother. I don't know why they didn't go and just give us all five, like the funeral montage.
Right, but did you need it? I mean, he definitely is mourning the loss of his mother and his grandmother, even though the grandmother's death is not actively portrayed in the story. He has flashbacks of her and his mom cooking in the kitchen. And so there is a loss of his mother and his grandmother.
Yeah.
In his life.
I don't know. I guess where I'm at in my film journey, my mind is maybe going along the lines of show all of that grief, because the loss of a mother is bad enough, but boy, both grandparents, both parents, and a cousin, that really kicks you in the plums. Mm-hmm. And so from my story perspective, I would think you would leave that in there to really ramp up. But maybe they wanted to keep the comedic aspects, and they thought 5 deaths would push it too far into terms of endearment.
Or just tonally, too. Is that a different kind of movie?
Right, yeah. That's a good point.
I love the casting of this movie. I mean, I was in from the moment I saw the trailer and saw this cast of, there's so many Italians in this movie. It's so fun. So there's Lorraine Bracco, Talia Shire, Brenda Vaccaro. Although I don't know if Susan Sarandon
That was going to be my question.
Italian,
like Vince Vaughn, does she have some Italian in her background we don't know about?
But then his buddy Joe Manganiello, I can't say his last name,
I can never say it as well.
Yellow. Let me
He
do
really
that.
should change his name to Joe Hakatubi.
But Drea De Matteo from The Sopranos, she was wonderful. Tammy Pescatelli, she's a great comedian, and she plays his cousin. I mean, it was just there are so many Italians.
And we
in
don't
this
want to
film.
bury the lead here. Linda Cardellini aged quite well into a tasty morsel.
Yeah, she's
now,
not listed here.
She was not ever unattractive, but I felt like in this film, she really brought the leading lady on-screen aesthetic, and really we were happy to see good old Vince get together there. Oh, spoiler alert, but probably not a surprise to anybody. It's not a surprisingly plotted film, right? It treads a certain well-traveled road, but I find the journey was enjoyable as well. There is food. It would be nice if they showed it like at a McMiniman's and they served you the food that was portrayed on screen. I think that'd be fun. Kind of like Smell-O-Vision, but even better. Actually, now that I think about that, I should make a movie about food and have them serve the food to the patrons. Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, and then there's that one of our sons loves to watch the YouTube channel Binging with Babish, and he will often he uses movies to inspire what recipes he makes. I wonder if he's going to make any from this film. Hopefully not the sheep's head.
Yeah, that didn't seem to go over so well. I have to say, I did enjoy beef tongue when I've had it, but I don't know if I would enjoy sheep's head. And yes, I know I'll never know until I try, but...
It goes against, you just said a couple days ago you didn't want to eat something that looks back at you.
Yeah, not my favorite.
So...
I have a rule that I don't want to eat fellow sentient creatures, which is why I don't eat octopus anymore.
Are sheep smart?
No, not at all. Not smart enough to... It's kind of like the Mendoza line, but for intelligence. So, yeah, there's still food, but I don't know, the head, yeah. Not a lot of creatures' heads that I enjoy eating, now that I think about it.
The cool thing about this film is it's PG, so that pretty much, I mean, I can't remember. There must be one F-bomb, right? Probably to get the PG, but you could watch this with the whole family.
Yeah, if people are concerned about language, I don't think this film would be a problem. I don't think there's any boom chicka wow wow activity that would be
kissing,
disconcerting. No drug use, violent crime. Nobody cuts a hand off or anything. It's pretty straightforward.
It's a sweet movie, just under 2 hours.
Yeah, it didn't feel that long, but it is kind of, I guess, if it's just under 2 hours, a little bit on the longer side, past the moral line. But it didn't feel tremendously long. I think that's a sign of a good film. It had, if I recall correctly, some substantial rain, so credit to the props and grips and everybody to get that going on, right?
Rain, did you say?
Yeah, didn't they have a scene where it was raining pretty heavily and he goes outside the restaurant? It's like their opening night, it was pouring rain.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes.
Thunderstorms and such. So that was, the production value. I have to admit, ashamedly, I didn't recognize the classic car that was a key plot point, and I can't find any reference to it on the internet of all places. Nobody seems to know what that car is, so credit to whoever they got that did that, but I apologize for not knowing how to tell my listeners what to look for there. I think, presumably, it looks to me like they did a great job on the sets, making it look realistic. As I said, it was based on a true story, and there is a restaurant, I think it's still in business, that this guy had started. Yeah, so they could have gone directly to the place.
Yeah, it's called Enoteca Maria. It does say, I just was perusing the trivia as we were recording, and it says the now closed world-famous restaurant in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Spiritos, was used as the location for this film, for the restaurant for this film.
So the question I kind of have for you is where you would put this on a scale of kind of substance, right? Is this a lighthearted kind of bubblegummy film, or did it land for you more as a regular film? I mean, somewhere on the scale between like Goodfellas and Hallmark movies, right?
Right.
Where did it land for you?
Well, I mean, definitely it lacks the violence of like a Goodfellas.
That's true, yeah.
So, but I can't really say it's bubblegum because of the themes of loss, and he encounters quite a bit of obstacles. It's my perfect kind of movie, though. You know, I love a movie where somebody overcomes. They have some trials, they have some tribulations, but in the end, they are triumphant. And I need that in my, because you make fun of me for liking these movies that are like sad and depressing.
Yeah. Everybody just suffers and dies.
Right. But I like a little bit of, I need an obstacle. I need you to, I don't want a perfect movie. I think that's my biggest problem maybe with Hallmark. Maybe we stumbled on it. Is they never really seem to have a horrible heart. Like they get a flat tire is like the biggest hardship.
Okay.
And I changed a flat tire when I was 18. So it can't be that with no like previous experience.
I'm going to push back a little bit.
Okay, you push back.
They will have that her father's bakery is failing or the family candy business is going out of business and she has to use her big city knowledge to save them. So there are stakes there, but I think what you're getting at is I don't know that we ever really feel there's peril.
Yes, this is
And
correct.
in this case, I would agree with you that I think in the middle of the movie, it was not clear to me whether or not Vince's character was going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, it looked pretty dire.
We knew that was kind of the direction, but I think they did a good job of establishing that maybe they wouldn't let us have a happy ending, right?
Correct. I did worry about that.
Yeah.
Not only is he not going to achieve the goal that he set out to by opening this restaurant, but he had mortgaged his house.
Oh, yeah.
He was about ready to lose his job because he was working on the
Yeah.
restaurant so much. And he almost, or it was at risk, he was going to lose his best childhood friend over this. Because he didn't do it on purpose, but the friend extended himself to a degree that most people would not.
Right.
And because he couldn't like pay him, and because Joe's character was, you know, kind of probably ignoring other jobs, like there was a lot at stake for many people in this. And so it wasn't just like, oh no, we're not going to be able to open the shop. It was definitely bigger, higher stakes.
That was how it landed for me, and I think that's what takes it above that bubblegum movie. I think it is a lighthearted film, ultimately. It's something I think you can watch on a Friday night with dinner. Not like you have to get out the red yarn and corkboard to plot out all the various clues in the film.
No, but I would suggest eating Italian food while you do it.
Yeah, that seems appropriate. Which, by the way, diverts a little bit. Tiramisu is hard to turn down at that point. I forget, did they have tiramisu in the movie?
I don't remember. Oh, you know, they did. They didn't. I mean, I think there was a shot maybe of a tiramisu, but they called out. I'm gonna forget the name of it. It's like Zeppo.
Right.
It's like they're they're kind of like donuts.
Yeah, something like that. I really must say I'm not very familiar with Italian desserts. I maybe should be.
Other than tiramisu.
Other than the aforementioned tiramisu, which is, of course, a callback to Sleepless in Seattle, which I believe introduced us to tiramisu, the rest of the non-Italian world. I don't know that it was a big thing until Rob Reiner suggested it to Tom Hanks. I also think that, again, the acting performances in this film, I thought were good. I thought Vince didn't do his classic fast-talking salesman guy, but he also didn't try to put on an Italian or even a New York accent. So I thought that was good. I liked that.
The only thing I had that bumped me is I felt like they made Lorraine Bracco's character like too mean. Like I understand she was supposed to be kind of maybe a little bit colder, a little bit more standoffish. Maybe she even had a little bit more ego. And so having these other women in her kitchen, and maybe there was like one of the Nonnas in the true story was someone like this. But I guess I love Lorraine, so I didn't like seeing her portrayed as such a mean person. So that could be my own problem.
I think it's plausible that a person in real life would be that grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
The question then, I guess, is narratively, did they need to stick with that level? Because it does make the character not particularly sympathetic.
Well, yeah, exactly. So did it stand out to you? I'm not saying that there aren't like mean people, or she just, I don't know, it came off forced maybe. And I know she's too good of an actress for it to be a forced acting situation. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I do. I would say that's, yeah, probably her landing the character is written more than a poor acting performance.
Yeah, I could never say it was a poor acting performance.
Yeah. So the question is, why would they have chosen to go in that direction with that character? I assume it's to set up a reconciliation moment. So they wanted to go as far as they could in one direction to give a lot of room to come back. But that's a good question, because that character, in some sense, doesn't really fit with the other Nonnas. And we have a scene.
It is a what's it called? Like there is like a spectrum, because Talia Shire's character, you almost you look at her cross-eyed and she like shrivels. So like she's so timid and meek and scared, and then Brenda Vaccaro's kind of in the middle. She's just like this sweet. Her character, she's just like this sweet Nonna who just wants everybody to get along, and she's just trying to. I mean, there is a funny scene between her and Lorraine, because they're both from different parts of Italy, and kind of this kind of turf war kind of
Right.
thing that happens between them. Susan Sarandon's character is kind of, she's the pastry chef, so she's kind of almost in a separate part of the kitchen, or not really part of the three Nonnas. I mean, even though I guess tradition, or they're all three Nonnas.
I did notice that it was portrayed that she would come in later to work on the pastries, where traditionally a pastry chef comes in early and is finished. But if she had a job as a hairdresser, she would have to obviously come in. And those would make for very long days. And as a person who is racking up the years myself, I'm not sure I have it in me to do an 8-hour shift as a hairdresser and then go to a kitchen. That
would be tough.
That would be quite a bit. Ultimately, I would say I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a good watch, a good solid film. It reminds me of when Leonard Maltin said that most films are good, they're not bad, they're not great, they're good. I think this is a good film. I have nothing bad to say about it.
I recommended it to a couple people after we watched it. It's on Netflix right now. It does have a 7 out of 10. And most people are giving it a 7, but there's a good handful of 8, 9s, and 10s. And it doesn't have, I think one person maybe gave it a 1, as I'm looking at the little breakdown on the webpage.
Yeah, Joe
But
Pesci.
It's a great movie. I mean, when we finished, I was happy. Like it left me with just like a good feeling. I was glad we had spent those 2 hours that way. I feel, I don't know, my family, like food is love in my family's culture. So I think I relate to Italians on that level. It was just really enjoyable to watch these actors portray these characters.
Any final thoughts for us on the film of Nonnas?
Go see. I mean, or not go see it. Pull it up on your TV and watch it. I agree with you. Grab a pizza, get some pasta, whatever your Italian treat of choice is, and pull it up on Netflix and enjoy. That would be my recommendation.
And either get some tiramisu or find out whatever those dessert things were and get some of those.
Zappole.
So grab some Zappole and watch this film on the streaming service of choice. Okay, thanks everybody for listening to another, albeit perhaps shorter podcast as we find our sea legs. And never forget, Dodges never stop and neither do the movies.
Thanks for listening to Dodge Movie Podcast with Christy and Mike Dodge of Dodge Media Productions. To find out more about this podcast and what we do, go to dodgemediaproductions.com. Subscribe, share, leave a comment, and tell us what we should watch next. Dodges never stop, and neither do the movies.